Okay, so welcome back to our continuing journey to learn about Visual Basic in Excel. And in our previous videos, we talked about what is Visual Basic programming language in Excel, how do you configure it, how do you set it up, how do you run the IDE or Integrated Development Environment, and how do you debug your code and how do you write it. So I encourage you to look back at those videos to get a feel for what this is all about. And in this video, we are going to actually start writing some code to develop this application you see here in this spreadsheet. And what does this do? Well, as you can see, there's a chart here with a squiggly wave. And what this application does, the Visual Basic code, takes this equation down here that might look kind of scary, but don't worry, it's pretty straightforward. And what it does is it calculates that equation and plots it versus time in this chart. And one of the nice things is it allows you to click on this button, calculate and plot, and brings up this form, which is very similar to a Windows form, if you've ever done any Windows Forms applications in Visual Studio or any other programming language. It brings up this form and the user can change the values in this equation and replot it. So for example, I could change the time that I want it to plot to 0.2 of a second, and I could change the phase angle to 50 degrees, and I could change the magnitude to 0.4, and then I hit plot, and you can see automatically it updates the chart and plots it with these new values for this equation. Now, you may be thinking, well, I don't need to write a VBA program that plots equations. Well, no, but in this video and the other videos in the series, we're going to be talking about things that you may probably need to use, maybe now or in the future, to do other things. So in the previous video, we went through and wrote a basic outline for what we're going to need our VBA code to do. And you can see we need to add a spreadsheet with a button and a chart, pretty straightforward. And then this button, this calculate and plot button on the spreadsheet, is going to start this form. And the form, when you press the plot button, is going to go through and do the work in your Visual Basic code and use all these values for the equation and crunch those numbers and send it out to the spreadsheet. Here's a time and here's a value, and it will then automatically update the chart. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do these first couple steps and show how to develop this form and set it up, and then we'll show how to set up the event, what's called an event. So when you click this button, it will automatically run the code to grab all this data, fill it into the equation, and then calculate the values and plot it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new instance of Microsoft Excel. I've got 2010. So I've got a blank worksheet, blank workbook. And what we're going to do is we are going to go into the Developer tab. And again, we showed how to get the Developer tab and how to set this all up in the previous videos. I encourage you to look at it. In the Developer tab, we're going to go into Visual Basic. And here is your Integrated Development Environment we discussed in previous video. So the first thing I want to do is, here is the list of all the objects in your project. The spreadsheets and the workbook. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on that and go to the insert, and you can see it's got user form, module, and class module. Now before we use the module to just write some code, here we're going to select user form, and you can see automatically it gives you this additional forms folder in your project, and it's called User Form 1, and you can see here is your form. And it also gives you this toolbox that allows you to put stuff on your form. So here's our form, and this is basically going to be the same as what we had before. We just need to populate it. So I can even run this click the run, and there's your form. It doesn't do anything, but that's what the form is going to look like. So now we've got the form, we need to add stuff. We showed in our application, we've got some what are called labels and some text boxes. And if you look over here and hover over this A, you can see it's a label. And if you move over, there's a text box. So these are all the different items that you can put on your form. Right now we're going to stick with the labels and the text box. And a label is basically just a label. It doesn't really do anything. So for example, in this, we want to have labels. All of these are labels that describe to the user what these values are. So these are all labels. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 labels. And we've got 5 text boxes. Now you can interact with a text box. You can change the value and type in whatever you want, and then your code will be able to grab those values and use them in your code. So we're going to want 5 labels, which really don't do anything. They just describe what's in the text boxes, and 5 text boxes. And you can see we're going to need to name these labels to show what the values are, okay? And then we're going to need to have a button here, or at least 2 buttons, that will do the plot, but we'll look at that in a bit. So now let's go back to our form, and we said we need 5 labels and 5 text boxes. So let's click on the label, the A, and then click on our form, and you can see I've got label 1 is all set to go, but it says label 1. We don't want it to say that. The other thing is you can see down here in the properties, again, this is very familiar to you if you've ever used Visual Studio. The properties are all of the properties for this label, and you can see it's got a name in parentheses, and you can see down here it's also got a caption, and both of them are the same. The name in parentheses is the name that you can give it that your Visual Basic code will use to access this label. That's different from the caption, which is what you see here, okay? The caption is the text that you want this to show to the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename this Primary Freak HZ. Okay, so I click on that and you can see it now renamed it. And we also want to change the font. So we go down to here to the font, click on these 3 dots, and let's change it to a size 12 font, okay? So now we've got a label that is viewable. And the other thing we want to do is, what I like to do is I like to give it an internal name that Visual Basic is going to use, so that you can recognize what the control is. So this just says label 1, but I'm going to call it LBLPRIFREQ. Okay, so that makes it easy when I'm in my code. I can say label PRIFREQ, which means primary frequency. Oh, okay, that's what that is. Okay, so you can do the same. You can copy and you can paste and get the next one, and you can select, you can drag select these 2, copy and paste, and now you've got 4 of them. And then you can paste again and get rid of one of these by hitting delete, and now you've got your 5 labels. And all you got to do is go through and rename them, okay? Now the other thing you can do here is to line these up, drag select these and go to align and do rights. Okay, so now they're all lined up. So the next thing we want to do is go back to our toolbox, and we want to do the exact same thing for our text box. So click on that, click on the form, and it automatically gives you a text box. And again, we will go here, we will name it TXTPRIFREQ, and that will be our input text box for this. And again, we can copy, paste, and we've got another one, and drag select both of them, copy, paste, and you can move those, and once more, copy, paste, and you've got your 5 text boxes and labels. Okay, now again, I'll let you go through and rename these and give them some good names. Now the next thing we want is a button that allows us to go through and grab all this data in our code and plot. So what we have to do is come down here to this thing with an AB on it right below the A, the label, and it's a command button. So what we can do is click on that, then click on your form, and you've just added a command button. All right, so we're going to go in, change the name to CMD PLOT, and we can change the caption to read PLOT. All right, and you can go through, click on that, you can go through and go down to font, you can change the font, you can do whatever you want. But basically that is our form. You can also add, I had a cancel button that we won't talk about right now, but this gives you an idea of how easy it is to generate a form and get it all set up so you can use it. So one last thing I want to do with this is I want to double click on this plot button, and you can see it brings us to a private subroutine called command plot underscore click, and you can see that this is the code that gets run when you press that plot button. Okay, very nice. And again, it's very much like Visual Studio Forms. You click on the button and it generates an event that brings you to this subroutine. So in this subroutine is all the code we want to run to grab the data from this user form, grab all this data, and then populate the equation and send it out to the spreadsheet. So anytime I want to go there, double click on the plot and it brings you to this code. Anytime I want to go back to the user form, go over here to Forms, User Form, and double click on that. Okay, so now I've gone through and I have cleaned up these labels and text boxes. You can see I've got the correct naming here for the captions for the labels. And the text boxes, I went through and gave them a VBA name of TXT, and then in this case, PRI-FREQ, primary frequency, and then TXT SEC FREQ, and SEC MAG, and so on. So I've gone through and renamed all of these. It's kind of tedious, but you have to go through and rename these so that when you write your code, you know what text boxes you're accessing. Okay. Now, the other thing you want to do probably at this point is go into Excel and do a save as, and you're going to save it as an XLSM or macro enabled workbook. Okay, so make sure you save this with macros enabled so that this will run with macros. And also what I did is I clicked on this form on the outside of all these labels and text boxes. I clicked on this form, and you can see down in the properties, I named it with the VBA name of FRM get plot data. So I know what I'm dealing with. And then you can see up top here, I can again change the caption, and I just changed it, you can see down here, to enter plot data. All right. So just to clean everything up, and now we're all set, what I can do is I can again click on this form and hit the run, and you can see it brings up the form and it's ready to have you type in data. Now the other thing you can do if you want to go to the effort is you can set the tabs for this. I'm hitting tab now, and you can see it starts out here, then it goes to this next one, and then it jumps down to here, and then jumps back and down to here and then to the plot button. That's fine, but what you can do is you can go through and you can set the tabs so that they go in order if you want that. We're not going to go through that here. You can hit the X to get rid of this. We're also going to later add a button to cancel. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to figure out how to, when we click this calculate and plot button, we're going to have to put a button on the spreadsheet, and we click this, and it's going to bring up the form we just developed. So we're going to figure out how we can do that. And then we're going to show how to grab the data from this form and start writing the code to figure out what this equation is and put all those variables into the equation. So anyway, if you like this or any of these videos, please like and subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and most of all, let others know that we're here if you think they'd be interested. And otherwise, take care. Have a really good day. Thanks.